went down 3 different times, the way he was tumbling.
The thing what I loved about that is, after when he won, he just celebrated the same. Nothing had ever happened, like, yeah, I didn't get knocked out. But before that, he was doing the chicken dance.
Yeah, honestly.
What's up, fight fans? It's Will Butler here. I'm down here with my brother, Jack. And basically, doing something a bit different today. He's going to be asking me 10 questions about the UFC, and I'm also going to be asking him the questions, just so you get to know my personality a bit more.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
So, the first question we're going to do was, how did you find out about the UFC? So,
Well, it was from an old friend, Paul Smith. He's actually opened up his own gym, so I'll put his Instagram link in the description below. But he had a VHS video of the UFC. That's obviously how old it was. But so I actually see the first ever one before it really blew up and got big and famous. And I don't know how he got hold of it, because over here in England it weren't that popular, and we always seemed to be a little bit further behind. But I was always into my boxing. I think I was doing kickboxing training at the time, and I always loved martial arts films. My mate Paul knew I'd love this, and as soon as I see it, I was absolutely hooked on it.
yeah, and for me, being Will's younger brother, we was watching a lot of the wrestling. Our oldest brother, James, was always a big fan of the fake wrestling, and so he'd always get the DVDs and the videos. And I just remember one time seeing this video and just putting it on myself, and just being so shocked at how real, and watching that first fight with the kickboxer Gerald Bordeaux versus the sumo, that Tyler TT, I think his name is.
I can't remember.
Yeah, it was a.
I know he knocked his tooth out.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it was just so shocking, and it really, to me, as much as I'm not a fighter myself. I enjoy training with Will when I do, but I could see why Will loved it, and seeing Will take the progression into watching UFC made me get into it. Now I'm a massive fan, and Will even admit himself. He don't get as much time with having his kids and working out. I have a little bit more time where I get to watch it, so I'm always keeping him up to date with fighters and that. And he watched it with me when we get a chance, but obviously being in the UK, it's 3 AM, it's never nice, is it? So we'll do the second question.
Just very quickly, just that I wanted to add on. After watching it on DVD a few times, a few years later, there was actually one of the first ever cage fighting events in England, and I went with a couple of my friends to watch it, and I was definitely doing kickboxing at the time then. I remember saying to one of my friends, I'm going to fight in the cage one day, and obviously I never got to the UFC, but I did compete in the cage, so I was still quite proud of that.
Right, and in this fight I'm going to say to you, who was your favourite UFC fighter growing up?
Right, my favourite UFC fighter growing up was Sean Shirk, because at the time I was amazed that he weren't the most skillfulest of fighters, and I think he even admitted that, but his work ethic, and he was just an absolute beast, just took him all the way to the top just because he could outwork everyone and work like a machine. Then I found out he was on steroids, and I was a bit heartbroken at that one. But still, growing up, he definitely, for me, was one of my favourite fighters.
Yeah, and see, for me, it was a bit different, because I kind of got into it, I was a bit younger, I got into UFC. I was watching it from a young age, it took me a while to realise. I just loved Chuck Liddell. And me and you, one of your favourites was always Tito Ortiz, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did like Tito.
And one of
I also like Chuck.
Yeah.
So many.
One of our things was always, I wanted Chuck to win, and we wanted Tito to win. And we'd always have a little rivalry about it. But Chuck was he was the era of that UFC. You ask anyone who was a fan of that era, he was so big, and the way he come over from Pride, he had a couple of bad fights in Pride where he did get knocked out by Rampage Jackson, but then to come over and he dominated UFC for so long, and when he got knocked out by like Rashad Evans, I was so upset. And yeah, just of that era, of the first era of the UFC, the first UFCs in 20s to 30s, 40s, he was just so dominant, and he was so big. And that's why. And
going back just a little bit further, obviously before that era where they started to bring in rules in, when it was still no holds barred, obviously everyone loved Gracie and Ken Shamrock, but I also really liked Tank Abbott.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because he's a bit of a moron, let's be honest, and not the nicest of. Well, he is probably a nice fella, but he didn't act as nice when he was fighting. He weren't really gentleman-like, but I still liked him anyway.
So we'll go on from there. So third question I'll ask you, Will. We'll say some more liked fighters, and then we'll go on to your hated fighters. So for me, I know Will quite well. I know growing up when we watched them first Ultimate Fighters together on DVD, because we watched them together, we loved Bisping, didn't we?
Yeah.
Bisping was so
Bisping.
good. We loved Sanchez with his yes cartwheels.
Yeah.
And then Forrest Griffin was
He stands
obviously.
out for me.
Stephen Bonner was immense.
Yeah,
wasn't
that
he?
first fight.
Yeah,
Like,
that first fight.
That too. Well,
Yeah.
helped the UFC come
Massively. And then kind of getting that little bit more and seeing like GSP, who a lot of people hold for being pound for pound king. Seeing them fighters, seeing how good he was, seeing BJ Penn, how brilliant BJ Penn was.
And who's the one I had the rivalry with? Matt Hughes.
Matt Hughes.
I actually, in one of my fights, done the running Matt Hughes slam.
Yeah. And we always have Matt Hughes.
So, yeah.
But then we can go on to most hated. Me and Will both agree, we always hated Josh Koscheck, didn't we?
Yeah.
For
me, it really cemented it with me not liking him when he faked that knee to the face. I just thought like a very unsportsmanlike and not very sort of fighter like. In my head, like fighters are tough, and to sort of fake an injury to try and get one up on a fight, I thought was a bit naughty. So sorry, Josh.
Right. I'm gonna say, Will, hands down now, who's your pound for pound favourite fighter?
My favourite or best fighter?
Or best you
fighter.
think?
So the pound for pound best. I mean that could probably be a whole entire video in itself.
I'm sure we'll have to do a whole video on that.
But enough people don't talk about him, and that's Demetrius Johnson. I feel as if not enough people talk about him when they talk about the pound for pound list, but in my eyes he's definitely got to be up there.
See, for me, and you know I loved him, it was Anderson Silva. Because I think that era, he was so dominant. So dominant.
So he let himself down towards the end of his career a bit, but if you want to say pound for pound when they were at their prime, yeah, no one was touched him, was they?
No.
So,
well,
again,
don't get wrong.
Don't get
wrong. Habib is incredible. He was an incredible fighter. No one touched him, really, did they? Habib. You have GSP, again, incredible fighter. And the thing about GSP was he would fight anyone. There wasn't anyone he would not fight. That GSP versus Anderson Silva fight in their prime, for sure, was one which we truly missed out. Because I generally believe that would have been. You got your Conor McGregor's, your coming up from 145 to 155 to fight Eddie Alvarez. No, everyone wanted that.
Yeah, if you want to talk about fantasy fights, like, because that was talked about, but that's what we missed out on.
Massively.
Should have been
Yeah. Right. Will, favourite KO ever? It's always a hard one.
Yeah, I don't know. Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm.
That was always you never a big fan of Ronda, was you?
Yeah, actually saying that, back to what we were talking about hated fighters, I was never a massive fan of Ronda. Just because I felt as if she was never really sportsmanlike in... I know obviously it's a fight and maybe it's her way of being able to build up the fight and sell pay-per-views and that, but I just thought she weren't a very nice person in that sense. She generally didn't like the people she would fight in, where at the end of the day it is just a sport. They're all trying to do it to make money and build up the ladder, but that's what everyone's doing in life, so you'd end up hating everyone if you're going to be like that.
See, my favourite, again, it's my pound for pound favourite fighter with Anderson Silva. His knockout of Vitor Belfort. That front kick to the face. The way he looks down at his foot and then just flick that front kick up. And you told me, we watched it live, and you were like, that wasn't a knockout kick. That kick is a front kick. It's usually used to push people away in Thai boxing. It's very rarely used now, and now it's used by loads of fighters love that front kick.
More like a snap front kick.
Exactly, and the way, like Vitor was a phenom, that was his nickname, but he was a phenom. And that knockout to me, don't get wrong, Michael Bisping getting knocked out by Dan Henderson, that knockout was incredible. I know a lot of people, that's their favourite fight knockout, but to me, that Anderson Silva knockout, Vitor Belfort, was just incredible. And then Will, Favourite submission?
Favourite submission? Favourite submission, this probably got to be one of my favourite fights ever, which surprising was basically Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva. But I was actually a fan of Chael Sonnen, I'm not even joking. I wanted Chael to win that fight. I liked Anderson Silva, but where he was destroying everyone and Chael Sonnen coming along with dominating him, like, for me it was exciting, and I could have done a backflip when Anderson Silva pulled that submission off. I was jumping out my seat and everything, like, just for excitement for the UFC, like just the fight, the way the whole fight was, like, you couldn't write that story to that fight, could you?
I've got two, and they're both odd submissions. So the first one is the Korean Zombies twister.
Yeah.
On
first time I'd ever seen.
Yeah, that twister was incredible. I know both of us after that fight, after we showed it to each other, I remember both of us going on to...
I'd never actually even learnt that.
Yeah.
I'd never actually even done that training.
Yeah. I remember we both went on and we found out about Eddie Bravo and about 10th Planet, and it was like opening a whole new world to jiu-jitsu. You'd done jiu-jitsu a lot,
yeah,
but you never knew about the twister.
I mean, the twister had been about. There's like a wrestling version, basically a wrestler's version of it, but I'd never seen it in the UFC. Like I thought, I don't know, it was a bit like the old Boston Crab. You didn't really do it in MMA. It didn't really work, maybe, but. Yeah, he pulled it off. Yeah,
and then the other one is Vincent Prue. He's got 3 of them. The Von Flue choke, because again, to me, that Von Flue choke, to be on a dominant, you've got someone in a guillotine, and then the next second you're completely out. That Von Flue choke, and it takes a skill, and the way that Von Flue done it first was incredible. But then the way Vincent Prue has got 3 finishes by Von Flue choke, and he puts them in the position. He gets them to get his head. He bakes it. It's not just like some Anderson Silva's triangle on Chael Sonnen. As brilliant as it was a Hail Mary triangle. He threw it up, and if he didn't get that, he would have lost the fight. The way Von Flue has done them, the way Vincent Prue has done them 3 Von Flue chokes, he has set that up. He has set it up to get the finish and got them each time. And we're going to do this, Will. We're going to do your favourite comeback fight.
Oh, I get it. It has to be the Anderson Silva Chael Sonnen, without a doubt. There was another one that had a brilliant ending with a comeback. Oh, I can't think of the bloke's name. I hope you remember.
Pat Berry.
Where he got hit in the stomach.
Oh,
What's
no!
That one where he got hit in the stomach and he was winded.
Pete Silver, Steve Smith.
That's it. That has got to be...
Ultimate Fighter finale.
Yeah, one of the best endings to a fight. Again, you couldn't really write that. Like, I just thought it was incredible, That's right.
Yeah, so one will be Pat Barry versus Chet Congo.
Oh, yeah.
That heavy... I reckon now that fight stopped 4 times before Chet Congo managed to knock him out. The way Chet Congo, he went down 3 different times, the way he was tumbling.
The thing what I love about that is, after when he won, he just celebrated the same. Nothing ever happened, like, I didn't get knocked out. But before that, he was doing the chicken dance.
Yeah, honestly. 2 questions left. Your favourite fight ever?
Favourite fight ever, probably got to be Clay Guida, Diego Sanchez, and Clay Guida's got to be up there as one of my favourite fighters ever as well, because he's just got some heart in it. He's an absolute legend.
Mine will be Rory McDonald versus... I cannot think of his name.
I know who you're on about.
The welterweight. I'm going to Google it, give me a second.
I know who you're on about. Robbie Lawler.
Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald 2.
It's weird, I couldn't think of his nickname. I was saying Ruthless. Ruthless in that fight.
I sat up with my friend Zach, and that fight, I remember being so tired, and that fight woke me up so much. I remember I had to go to work the next morning literally just thinking about that fight all day at work. And honestly, that fight to me was just, it had everything. The first round, I know it started slow, and I know people booed the first round, but it was the way they were so technical. Everyone remembers the blood, but go and watch the technique, go and watch the skill by both fighters. And that 4th round, at the end of that 4th round, where they're staring against each other, it was just incredible. And again,
I sound like an average Joe fan saying about Clay Guida, Diego Sanchez, because there weren't a lot of skill in that fight. They had a slobber knocker.
Yeah. But as well as one of my favourite fighters, I didn't really mention, for now's era, is Justin Gaethje. He has wars. People don't realise how technical Gaethje is.
Yeah.
His leg kicks, he can throw leg kicks in a phone box. That boy.
He throws him in a clinch, which is very unorthodox. Yeah. I've actually stole that from him because I've got little legs and arms. It tends to help me throwing it in a clinch.
Yeah.
It's good, Reed.
Right. One more question and we'll end it here.
Right, just for the last question, if you're enjoying this so far, obviously hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and thank you for getting this far. Very quickly, in the comment section below, I'm going to be making a video soon where I'm going to film me watching a UFC fight with my other half. Let me know, because she's never watched it before. So let me know what fight you'd like us to watch in the comment section.
Right, last question. Rule set. Is there any rules you would like to change in UFC?
I quite like the ideas of not having rounds. I've heard about that before, just having a 15-minute fight, and that's it, not even a 20-minute for the title, just 15-minute fight, 25, sorry, just 15-minute fight, that'd be it. I hate the judging, the way it's judged, and the last one that I really don't like is cutting weight, but it's weird because I've never had to cut weight as a fighter, so I'm not saying that from a fighter's perspective because I don't like it, I just think that it takes a lot out of the fighters and it's maybe unnecessarily unnecessarily evil for the fighters to have to go through that. I'd rather them concentrate on the fight, weighing on the day. And I also think the weigh-ins, I think people worry about them too much. Maybe they should have more weight categories. But if I was to fight someone and they weighed a little bit more or a little bit less, it generally wouldn't bother me, as long as it's not too drastic. But
one championship have it perfectly. One championship have a hydration system where they have to test their water weight to their body weight, so they can't lose too much water weight to be in the fight. But they test 6 weeks in advance before. So I'd like to see them implement something like that. For me, the biggest rule set change for me, and it's going to be quite a controversial one because we get spoken about a lot, but is the soccer kicks to the ground. To me, watching Pride back in the day, and we grew up, we watched the first UFC, and then we got into Pride, didn't we?
Yeah.
Seeing them soccer kicks, it invents a whole new level to the ground. The wave of the UFC right now, you see all these Russian fighters, all these Sambo fighters coming over, and their ground game's phenomenal. Yeah, they can do it as well, but it gives someone an extra chance. There's nothing different more from getting kicked in the face on the floor to getting kicked in the face when standing up. So I'd like to see that implement more, and it stops stalling.
The UFC does say as real as it gets, and at the end of the day, that kicking someone in the head when they're on the floor, that happens out in the street, so it is as real as it gets. But it's weird because rule sets and the way people fight do make a style of, say, martial art or fighting, like boxing is the way it is because you can only punch. MMA is the way it is because of the rule set and that. It's like left way. When it introducing headbutts, I was hearing someone saying about when the Thais go over there to fight, they find it really hard because as soon as they go to a Thai clinch, they're getting headbutted because they're not used to having that involved in it. So sometimes you think maybe they should just let people, if they're going to fight and compete, maybe they should let people go for headbutts, have the lot. But I understand why they don't. So it is a bit of a controversial one.
But and one rule, the 12-6 elbow, is the silliest rule. And if you've ever watched Joe Rogan's podcast and listened to Big John McCarthy, you know that's the silliest rule in the UFC. It's no different.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Right. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, leave it a thumbs up, and we'll see you all soon.